Hi everyone. Now, a while back, I did a piece called The Knight and the Monk, which was an effort to compare and contrast the ISTJ with the INFP and kind of give an idea of where the two can get confused and how the two are similar and how they are different. At the time, somebody asked whether I could do a similar thing with the ISFJ and the INFP, and at the time, I didn't feel as if I was on top of things enough to comment. I think I know a little bit more, and I'm going to take a first run at it. And I'm going to have to apologize a lot here because A, I may get things wrong, and B, I'm going to use some quasi-religious archetypes and imagery, and I hope that no one takes offense at this, but I think it's the easiest way to describe some of the feeling aspects and kind of the metaphysical angle that the INFP and ISFJ share in different ways, but share nonetheless. So the first piece is I've got to go up against 16 personalities because they have a description of the INFP, and it is really much more accurate for an ISFJ description. And I'll do a little bit of paraphrasing here just to show why the confusion exists. When you look at the ISFJ description at 16 personalities, it's about, they show an archetype of a nurse icon. And it's like, I don't think any ISFJ, or few ISFJs would think of themselves as a nurse. And then some of the descriptions include saying that they remember people's special events and their birthdays. And it's like, well, is that really all you can say about the ISFJ? I mean, it's just terrible. So, when I look at the INFP description, however, and I'll just paraphrase some stuff off of here, this is an ISFJ. And at least what I believe how an ISFJ sees themselves and how I would see an ISFJ more accurately. They may seem quiet or unassuming, but they have passionate inner lives. They are imaginative. They happily lose themselves in daydreams. They can invent conversations and stories. They're known to be sensitive. They have profound emotional responses to music, art, nature, and people around them. They're known to be sentimental and nostalgic and can hold on to keepsakes and memorabilia. ISFJs are idealistic and empathetic. They long for having deep and soulful relationships. They feel called upon to help others. That's an ISFJ thing, completely. Due to the nature of current society, they may feel lonely or invisible. They may feel that the world doesn't appreciate the traits that make them unique, but it's because they have this sensitivity, they possess unique potential to connect deeply and initiate positive change. There you have it. The ISFJ. So if we move from the 16 personalities description to the cognitive stacks and why the two seem to be similar, and I apologize for the acronym soup, but the INFP's stack is FINESITE. What that means is you have someone who ideates and judges those ideas and kind of leads that into a continuous loop based on their prior experiences abstracted. So there's kind of this particular attention to details of the past that they then combine in new alchemical ways and then filter through to evaluate. Now, contrast that with the ISFJ. The ISFJ leads with that abstraction of experiences, and then they have feeling that they can apply to those experiences based on what they've learned about society and community and the social mores, and generally what they've built up to understand morality and society and community. But the trick is that ISFJs also have third slot TI, and that means that they are logical. They're actually academics in a sense, And because of that, what you end up getting is someone who is rational, has that window into past experience and a lot of detail and knowledge, and combines those two with those social mores and morality and community that that allow them to kind of extrovert those things into making the world a better place. So they're both what I see as being roles that are fundamentally, they have a spiritual or metaphysical aspect. But the INFP is much more in the abstraction, where the ISFJ's metaphysical angle is more about engagement. And that's where I've tried to compare and contrast the two. Unlike the knight and the monk, what we're looking at is the friar and the monk. And now the word friar has fallen out of favor, so I'll try and explain what that means. It's a religious role that's meant to engage with the community. So priests can be friars, but instead of being a priestly role, it's more just saying this is someone who is ecclesiastical, who is meant to work with the community, work with people, as opposed to the monk who's behind the walls of the monastery. People might come to the monastery to have an exchange of ideas, but the monastery is fundamentally separate and different from the rest of the world. So to go a little bit deeper into the ISFJ description, and again, this may be off the mark in lots of ways, and leave a comment if you think I've really done a disservice here. But the way that I see it, SI-DOMs, the ISFJ and ISTJ, both tend to have this abstracted, almost mythical view of the world, and you layer your experiences on top of reality. So what you see is someone who has a lot of experiences and knowledge built up, and then applies the lens of a rational academic to those experiences. And yes, an ISFJ is an academic. They have this stereotype of helping people, and that is part of the stack. But if we go into the role of the friar, the idea is that you know that you can't retreat into some sort of abstracted spiritual calling behind the walls of the monastery. You need to minister to the laity, to be part of the world, and to do good in the community, to have an influence and affect positive change. So, and in fact, society depends on this continued action, this duty to society. So the friar, the ISFJ, uses their past experiences, the teachings from the past, from their time in the seminaries, and their studies, and their built-up knowledge, and use those to apply to help those in need. So there's this discipline of morality and of doing good in the world. And then through the way that they apply these things to the world, their inner world is in turn transformed into something spiritual. There's the inferior NE, which can act up at times for the ISFJ to see kind of this, the sky is falling types of situations. And it may be true. At times the sky really is falling. But fundamentally, even though they're sensors, the ISFJ is abstracted and then works with the abstraction of FE to understand how to take its knowledge and bring it into the community in a logical, rational, sensible, academic way. And so that's where I could see that the role of a friar, that this spiritual role that engages with the community, looks over at the monk and says, well, we're fundamentally the same. We're doing the same role. Whereas the monk behind the walls of the monastery might say, we're not doing what you're doing. We're in the monastery, you bake bread, you make jam, and contemplate the nature of the divine. And that's sort of the limitation of being within the walls of the monastery. Someone may come in, but it is fundamentally a solitary existence where the ISFJ, whether or not ISFJs have lots of friends and have lots of real engagement with real people, aside from that, the mindset is that an ISFJ with FE is somehow fundamentally plugged into the needs of community, society, of people, and of how to effect positive change in that role. And that's something that INFPs just don't have. It may happen. If it happens, it's more or less incidental. But there you have it. That's where I think you have some of the ideas of the confusion between the two, why ISFJs frequently may think that they are INFPs. But really, I think that the ISFJ role is more practical, more effective, more balanced, because of that combination of feeling, community, intellectual rigor, and then the knowledge base to work off of, to put all of those pieces together. Where I think an INFP stack is more fundamentally unbalanced, to get into these loops of ideas based on past experience that are recombined in new and novel ways and then evaluated and almost always cast aside without any real positive effect or change for anyone. So there you have it. I hope this has been helpful. If I'm way off base, please let me know. But I think I'll stop there. And I hope that wherever you may be, you're having a good morning, afternoon, or evening, or night. And